Hello there, my name is Mrs. Geiger and I am your Southbound Community College advisor there at Cesar Chavez High School. And I do actually have a physical office in the counseling department at Chavez. It's probably collecting dust because I haven't been there since March, but nonetheless, I have been open for business for your support and your guidance towards the college enrollment process. So today we are going to actually focus on the FAFSA application. I'm going to walk you step by step. Hopefully this video is useful for you as you apply for FAFSA. So before even getting there, what is the FAFSA? So actually the FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Basically federal dollars that a student can use to go to college. So this is money, the Pell Grant that you can qualify for through this FAFSA application is money you don't have to pay back. As long as you pass your classes, then you'll be able to continue filing the FAFSA every year and being eligible for the Pell Grant. You can also qualify for loans, but the goal is to find out how much you qualify for Pell Grant. Let's get started. All right. So I'm using the slides that have been used throughout the month of October. If it's still October, chances are maybe you already went to an October Zoom Virtual FAFSA workshop. And if you haven't yet and October is over, then those sessions are over, but it's okay. Hopefully this video you are able to gain from. All right, so these are the goals for today's slides, you can say. Our goal is, if you haven't completed your FAFSA, to complete your FAFSA. And then there's a quick little survey at the very end. If you're struggling with your FAFSA, let's say you're working on it, you've tried several times and you're kind of stuck. And if it's in the wee hours of the morning, you can actually hit up my boy, Benji, and he'll be able to text back. It's not an app. You don't have to download anything. You actually can text your question to 602-786-8171. And again, Benji is available 24 hours in any language. So you can follow the steps there by texting this number here. Or if you want to speak to someone on Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, someone is available in English and Espanol. These are the numbers to call. 1-833-AZ-FAFSA for English. 1-833-MI-FAFSA en Español. And then also, like I said, if it's still October, you still have a chance to go to a 3 to 5 workshop. You can drop in and get help. If it's past October, these sessions in Zoom are not available anymore, but the slides here are recorded. And also you can reach out to me. Again, Mrs. Geiger. You can find me on Teams. You can chat me, Jacqueline Geiger, SMCC, and we'll get you the help that you need. Also individual FAFSA help. There is the link there, the Phoenix Union website. You can fill out the form and someone will get in contact with you. All right, a little bit about the admissions and financial aid process. So of course, applying for admissions at your desired college or university is important. That is part of the process. Sending in your transcripts through Zello is also part of the process. If you're unfamiliar with the process of sending in your transcripts through Zello, you can contact your counselor, or you can also reach out to me and I can direct you to the right steps. And you are in this steps. If you're watching this video, chances are you are in this step, completing your FAFSA. Priority deadlines are extra important, especially for universities. So if you're applying for a university or if you already applied to a university, you've got to make sure to know the priority deadlines to make sure that your FAFSA is in before then. So you can also be eligible for added financial aid through the school. Also, completing your to-do list items in your student center. So after you apply to the college or university of choice, most likely you received a login information to log into your what's called student center or student portal. Every school calls it different. So it's basically what Student View is to you at Chavez right now. The student portal or the student center is what you'll use to access all your information as a college or university student. So even before starting college, you have access to the student center, and that will be a way for you to know if the school needs extra information from you to complete that through your to-do list. Also, the best situation that a student can be in is having options. A lot of times this happens in the spring semester of your senior year in high school. You evaluate, okay, school A offered me this amount of financial aid and school B offered me this amount of financial aid. Let me see. These are my goals. This is what I'm looking for. Which situation is better for me? That's the question you should ask yourself. You can evaluate that and make the decision. And then also, there may be extra steps that need to be completed for enrollment. So you got to make sure to do that so you can start strong in August. All right, this is the eligibility for FAFSA. So a student must be a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. And male applicants of the FAFSA must register with selective services. Also, you must attend an accredited college, enroll in a degree or certificate program, and that's like you not taking classes, college classes just for funsies. You got to have like a degree or a certificate in place. You got to be working towards a certification or a degree. And then also, this is an important one that a lot of times students don't realize. You must maintain what's called satisfactory academic progress, which means basically pass your college classes in order for you to continue to be eligible for FAFSA year after year. And another thing that students sometimes forget is you have to reapply for FAFSA every single year that you're in college. Very cool. So we're going to start off strong, figuring out whose information you're going to include in your FAFSA. Most of the time, the majority of students in high school, the seniors, they are what's called dependent students, so they must provide parent information. And sometimes living situations are unique. So to help you figure out who is your parent when it comes to FAFSA, then I'm gonna kind of outline who is not your parent. Even if you live with them, if there is not a legal adoption in place, then they are not considered your parents when it comes to FAFSA. So these are the following people. If it's a widowed step-parent, mom or dad's boyfriend or girlfriend are not considered parents and you don't have to provide their information. Grandparents, foster parents, or legal guardians, you don't have to provide their information. Older siblings, aunts or uncles, they're not considered parents when it comes to FAFSA. So then you may be asking yourself, then who's considered a parent? Well, there it is. Biological parents. So biological parents or adopted parents and or step parents who you live with the majority of the time. Got it? So if you're still kind of confused or have questions about your living situation, again, reach out and we will figure it out. There's these handy dandy handouts that start off with questions. And then if you answer yes, it'll lead to another question. And if you answer no, it'll lead to another question until it figures out for you whose parent information you should provide. So we got you if you're still confused. So this is a scenario. My biological or adoptive parent who I live with are not living together. So what if they're not living together? Okay, very cool. So the next question is, do you live with one parent more than the other? If the answer is yes, then who you will report is your parent or step-parent's info in the FAFSA. So if you don't live with more than the other, then the answer would be no. And then you would report the parent or step-parent that provided the majority of support. That's who you will be providing in the FAFSA. Again, every situation is a little different. The majority of students will provide their biological or adoptive parents. If you find yourself in a unique living situation, don't worry. I highly still encourage you to apply for FAFSA. It's all just a matter of figuring out whose information to include. All right, so now we're going to focus on FAFSA checklist. What information do you and your parent need in order to complete the FAFSA? So this is what the student needs. Your FSA ID. So your FSA ID is basically a username and password that you created through the FSA ID website. And then that FSA ID information will be used for you to log into your FAFSA application and actually complete it. Now, if you, as the student, find yourself being a legal permanent resident, you'll also not only need your social security number, but also your resident alien ID. And a lot of times a legal permanent residency card is known as the green card. So most likely if you have a green card, you will know what that is and you will be able to get your resident alien ID. If that really doesn't ring a bell, chances are you're not a legal permanent resident. You probably are a U.S. citizen. So if you're a U.S. citizen, all you need is your social security number. Of course, email address and password. You would need to have access to your email address inbox because at the end, if you haven't done your FSA ID, you would need that to verify your account. You'll need your home address, your phone number, and if you, the student, worked in 2019 and filed taxes, we would need your tax information as well. As far as parents go, if a parent has a social security number, then they can do an FSA ID. So that's a username and password. You would want to have that handy if they have an FSA ID. If, again, they're U.S. residents, their social security and resident alien ID. If they're U.S. citizens, their social security number. Let's say your parent is undocumented. It's all good. It doesn't affect the student, the eligibility of FAFSA. All you will do is enter zeros for the parent if they don't have a social security number. That's all you have to do. And then also their dates of birth. Marital status, is mom or dad married, separated, divorced, widowed, have they never been married? All those options are there in your FAFSA. All you have to do is figure out what your parents' marital status is the day of applying for FAFSA. And if they are deceased, the month and the year of their death, and then also a copy of their 2019 tax forms. Usually it comes with like a big old packet, and usually parents, put it in an envelope or a folder and it's neatly stored away. So you got to make sure that also you give your parents enough time for them to look for these forms. So try to avoid asking for this information 5 minutes before you want to complete your FAFSA. I'm just saying, try to avoid an argument. Okay, so then also parent email address and password, just in case you need to verify information, you want to make sure that you have access to that email address inbox. All right, so just as like a rule of thumb to be reminded, undocumented students, including DACA recipients, are not eligible for the federal student aid through FAFSA, but you may still be eligible for financial aid through the specific college or university that you're applying to. And then also there are other privately funded scholarships and other forms of financial aid that a student, if you find yourself being a student who is undocumented or has DACA, there's other means of financial aid. So I want you to reach out to me, reach out to your counselor, to College Depot in the city of Phoenix, the Central Library. They are incredible resources if you find yourself not being eligible for FAFSA. You continue applying and you continue striving towards their goals. You may have to take a detour, but you can still get there. And the support is available here at Phoenix Union. So make sure that you reach out. All right. So a lot of times based on the students' responses in the FAFSA, you may be able to skip sections. So if the FAFSA allows students to skip, you will sometimes get, do you want to skip, section 8, X, Y, and Z? Skip it. At always possible. If it's asking you, do you want to skip? You say yes and you skip. Chances are they already got the information that they need in order to determine your eligibility. So, all right, here we go. In order to best make use of this time going through the slides, you must already have an FSA ID. And if you don't have an FSA ID yet, there is a video that walks you through the FSA ID process, which is also located where you found this video. All right, so let's say you do have an FSA ID. Now you have to do is log in to the website at FAFSA, FAFSA.ed.gov. You go here, this is what you will see first, and you will select Start Here. Then you will select I am the student, and that you will use your FSA ID and password to log into the FAFSA application. All right, if you have an issue with your login, you can click Create FSA ID to manage. Then you will click the Manage Account tab, and then you can definitely get the steps that you would need to retrieve a password or a username. Now, if you have issues and you want to work with someone through your issues, you can also contact College Depot. If not, contact me directly and I will provide the support. I will point you to the right direction and we will get your FSA ID figured out. All right, you'll get a disclaimer, a warning, you'll select Accept. This is important, guys. Like I said, there is several applications that you can do. For current college freshmen, they completed the 2020-2021, but you are going to start college fall 2021 if you're a current high school senior. So you want to make sure that you choose the right FAFSA application, the 2021-2022. There, you will select a save key. This is basically if you need to save your application and come back at a later time, you will use a save key to access your application again. It could be any 4-digit code, anything will do, and it's like a temporary extra password. Just make sure that you remember it. Don't get all creative. Just do something that you will remember. All right, so these are FAQs, but you can hit Accept, you can hit Next, and this is section 1, the student demographics. It's super basic information, and you'll see here that some of these things are already pre-filled based on your FSA ID. So that's why it's important to have an FSA ID prior to starting your FAFSA. So again, just browse through the information, make sure that everything's correct and fill any missing items. Again, your email, phone number, very straightforward. Your address. And then this is the question. So have you lived in Arizona for at least 5 years? This example here is screenshots of an application. It's not going to say Maryland. It's going to say Arizona because this is where you're applying. So it'll say, if you lived in Arizona for at least 5 years, you'll select yes. If you have, and then also your citizenship question, are you a U.S. citizen? Then you'll select the drop down. You will have options. You'll either be a citizen, eligible non-citizen, not a citizen, or eligible non-citizen. So if you are a legal permanent resident, as a student, you're a legal permanent resident, then you will be an eligible non-citizen. If you were born in the U.S., then you'll be a U.S. citizen. All right, here. So this is where you provide your high school information. These are important. Sometimes students get a little stuck in these questions. What will your high school completion status be? So basically, will you be done with high school when you begin fall 2021 college? You will have a high school diploma. So that is the choice that you want to select. And what college degree or certificate will you be working on when you begin 2021-2022? So there are several different options. It could be first bachelor's degree. It could be associate's degree or certificate. So if you plan at all, if there's any plans in your mind to go and get your bachelor's degree eventually, even if you start at your Maricopa Community Colleges, then you can put first bachelor's degree. And then this is important. Will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin in the fall, next fall? You want to say no. If you're a high school senior, none of you have a bachelor's degree yet. So you want to say no. If you hit yes by an accident, you won't be eligible for Pell Grant. So you want to make sure that you hit no. And then what will your college grade level be when you begin 2020-2021 school year? Most of you has never attended college first year. Even if you did ACE program, even if you did dual enrollment or AP classes, it's totally fine. You can select never attended college. It will be your first year as a full-time college student. And then if you are interested in being considered work study, I always suggest to say yes, you are interested. Because if you select yes, you're interested, you may qualify for the work study program. And if you decide to, you can get a job on campus at whatever college or university that you attend. And they are so flexible with your college schedule. So they work with you. You don't even have to leave the campus to go off to work. You'll save on gas. It's a lot of perks when it comes to being a work study student. So I always suggest say yes. All right, student selective services. So this is for male students. If you select that you're a male, you will get the other two questions about selective services. So males between ages of 18 and 25, you must register with the selective services to receive financial aid. So you must register. You can, if you haven't registered with selective services, FAFSA can do that automatically for you as soon as you turn 18, so you can avoid any and all that. So again, in order to receive financial aid through FAFSA, you have to, if you're a male student, you have to be registered with selective services. If you're not 18 yet, chances are you're not yet registered. So you want to make sure that you put yes in the question, do you want us to register with the selective services? What is that, you may be asking yourselves, is basically the database, just in case we go on a draft, then you are there in the system. It's been over 50 years that we've gone on a draft, even before I was born, even way before, even before my mom was born. So it's okay. You'll be okay. You do have to be registered. It's a requirement. All right, optional. So if you have a driver's license and if it's handy when you're applying, go ahead and put your driver's license information in there. If you don't have it handy or if you don't have one, it's okay. You can continue and hit next. If you are a foster youth or were you at any time, you want to make sure that you answer this correctly. And then also your highest school completed by parent 1 and parent 2. So if you are providing both parents information, you want to make sure that you designate who's going to be parent 1 and who's going to be parent 2. It's totally up to you who's who. Just keep it consistent. So it's your best guess about what's the highest school they've completed. Don't feel like you have to have super, concise information. Your best guess is totally fine. All right, so section 2 is the school selection section, your high school and interested colleges. So here, the name of your high school and what city, and then what state is your high school located. So if you're at Chavez, of course, then you'll put Chavez and then what city and state. You can hit search. It'll generate a list, and then you'll select it, and then you'll hit next. And then here, you'll select, like I said, I kind of got ahead of myself. You select it, and then select the correct one. For example, if let's say you were from Alhambra and you just put Alhambra in the search option, you'll see that there's a lot of Alhambras in Phoenix. So you want to make sure that you select the right one. For Cesar Chavez, from my knowledge, I think it's just one. But again, you select it and you confirm it. So this portion here is where you put your colleges or universities that you want your FAFSA application results to go to. And remember, this is not you applying for the college or university. This is just letting FAFSA know, hey, FAFSA, I want to apply, or I have already applied to these colleges and universities. Will you please have these colleges and universities get my FAFSA results so they can link to my college application? So if you don't have a college code, that's totally fine. You can search it by college using the state and the name of the college or university. So if you're going to South Mountain Community College, you would put, do you know the college code? No, you don't. Do you know the state? Yes, you do. Arizona. And then the school name, you will put South Mountain Community College right there. And then you'll hit search, and then it'll come up. It'll come up as South Mountain Community College. You would want to click this little box. A lot of students forget, and then they're like, it didn't add. Well, you need to click this little box here. And then you can add more schools. And if once you're done adding the schools, you can add up to 10 colleges and universities. Then you will be asked to select the housing plans for the schools. So let's say South Mountain Community College. So it'll show up right there if you select the school. And the housing plans, it's for housing plans, you can either be off campus with parent or on campus. If you're going to South Mountain Community College, we don't have dorms, so it can be on campus. So you would select off campus or with parent. All right, so section 3, dependency status. So this is where you determine, based on the questions that you answer, you determine whether you provide parent information or not. So again, most students in high school, seniors, will continue with the dependent students. You guys will be dependent students. Independent students will be, so if you are an independent student, let me know. Reach out to me and I can help you and walk you through the process of completing your FAFSA as an independent student. For this example, for these slides, the remainder of the slides, I'm going to go in as if you are a dependent student. All right, so for dependency status, so student marital status, most students are single, so hey, some are married, but most of you are single, so you select that. And then this is again for students. Anytime the FAFSA asks for student information, you'll see it on the top left corner, student information. If it is parent information, then it'll say here, student or parent information. So for here, these questions are for students. Does the student have children or will have children between these dates? Most of you will say no. Do you have the student have dependents? So do you take care financially anyone other than a children or a spouse? Most of you will say no. And then you will select next. All right, again, this is more of student information. Are you currently serving on active duty? Are you a veteran? At any time since you turned 13, were both of your parents, did they pass away? Were you in foster care or were you a dependent or ward of the court? If you're like, what does all that mean? Most likely it doesn't, apply. But if none of these apply, then you select none of the above. The other couple options is as determined by the court in your state of legal residence. So in Arizona, are you or were you an emancipated minor? You would definitely know. It's a whole process if you get an emancipation. Or does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship? So also you would most likely know if you're under legal guardianship. So if none of these apply to you, then none of the above. Again, we're going to continue the rest of these slides as if you are a dependent student with parent information available. All right, this question, most students will say no to the following question, but if you are experiencing homelessness, you might fall under special circumstances. And we can get you, if you haven't been connected with your liaison there at Chavez is Miss Acosta. If you haven't been working with her and if you find yourself in homelessness, we want to get you support and connected and also complete the application appropriately. So reach out, definitely. But most students will select, if you're at risk at homelessness, most students will select no. And then what are you considered? Most students will be considered dependent students, and you will select, I will provide information about my parents. And this is like a requirement. It's not like, well, I'm mad at my mom, so I'm not talking to her right now, so I'm going to say I'm not able to provide information. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Unless you find yourself in like a super strenuous situation, super special circumstance, then that could be an option. But if it's just, maybe you're not talking to your mom right now because you argued, you will have to provide parent information. And I'm not downplaying it. I had a lot of arguments with my mom when I was a teenager, so I'm just saying. But dependency, what are you considered? So again, independent students will be moved to a breakout. This is if we were in the workshop, but if you are considered independent, you will get a little notification here. You're considered independent based on the questions that you provided. That's when you reach out to me, you reach out to your counselor, and we will get you the appropriate support to finish your FAFSA. All right, section 3, dependent, student, and parent information. So you have to, again, provide parent information to be considered for any type of financial aid. Even if, like, let's say it's not even an argument. Let's say you're not living with your parent right now. Your parent is maybe not paying for college, or your parent does not claim you in your taxes. You would still need to provide parent information unless you're legally have a legal guardianship with someone other than your parent, or you've been adopted by someone else, or if you are in a special circumstance. So let's say, like I was telling earlier, let's say you are in a special circumstance situation, then you may still be eligible for financial aid. So if you are, then this page right here will pop up, and then you would choose the appropriate option below based on your personal circumstance. All right. So parent demographic. Again, I'm going to go through the slides as if you're a dependent student and you have the information that we need for your parents. So right here, parent demographics. So as of today, again, remember I told you if whenever needed a parent, on the top left corner, you will see here that it'll be parent information. It's no longer student information required, it's parent. So as of today, what is the marital status of your parents? Are they married, remarried, separated, divorced? You can hit the drop down there and then you'll be able to select. And then also the date, so the month and year of that marital status. Again, just a refresher, who is my parent? Your biological parents or your adopted parents or step parents. All right, so again, marital status, parent 1. So again, if you do provide parent 1 and parent 2's information, just remember who did you designate as parent 1 and who did you designate as parent 2. So you'll select parent 1's information, so their social security number, their last name, their first initial, their date of birth, their email address, and then re-entering their email address. Again, if your parents do not have a social security number, don't worry, you enter all zeros. And again, if let's say they are undocumented, your parents, and if they file taxes with the tax ID number, that tax ID number does not equal social, so don't put the tax ID number in the social security number portion. You put all zeros. All right, so again, determine who parent 2 is. Do the same thing for parent 2. And then the question, have your parents lived in Arizona? Again, this example says Iowa, but yours will say Arizona. Have your parents lived in Arizona for at least 5 years? You select the answer there. And then it'll take you to the household size. Okay, so box 1, you already see it's pre-filled. It's gray. You can't change it. If you input information for both parents, you'll see a 2 there. If it's just one parent you're submitting information for, you will see a 1 there. It's pre-filled. For yourself, it's pre-filled again already. So box 3 is other children. This is your parents' information. As you can see on the top left corner, still parents' information. Other children mean your siblings, any brothers and sisters. And then also box 4, let's say there are other people in the house living there and your parents providing at least 50% of their support. Sometimes we see maybe grandma is living at home and maybe your parents are taking care of grandma financially. Maybe it's an aunt and uncle, or maybe a cousin that your parents are helping raise or something like that. If there's no other individuals living there, then you'll put a 0. And then it'll directly automatically calculate the number of family members in your household. And then the next question is the number of people in college. So you count yourself in this one, number of people in college. If there's any other, let's say siblings, go ahead and count them as well. If it's just you, it'll just be 1. Congratulations, right now we just do a little victory dance. Do a victory dance. You have completed 50% of the FAFSA. And that is that if you are with me and if you have completed it up to now, you're 50% done, my friend, the most you have ever done in your FAFSA. So good work to you. And we keep going. Section 5, we are almost done. As you can see here, it's so nice to see the little check marks, the green circles. That means you're done with those sections. Now we are into parent financials. So chances are, if you're completing the FAFSA, you parents already completed 2019 taxes information. So you put already completed. What type of income tax return did your parents file in 2019? The most common tax form is the IRS 1040, but you can flip through those handy dandy forms, the packet that hopefully you have in front of you, and you can find out. The name of the forms are usually on the corners, one of the corners of the pages. Well, but again, the most common is the 1040. Then you'll also find the parent's tax filing status in the first page of the IRS 1040. The great thing, if your parent or parents have an IRS data retrieval tool, they can use it with an FSA ID. If your parent has an FSA ID, highly advise you to link to the IRS. With your parent's FSA ID, you can link the information directly from the IRS to the FAFSA because they're both federal. So they'll securely link it with your parent's FSA ID. If they have one, use it. This is kind of like the income filing, just like real briefly here. But if you have the tax information, that is what you would need. And let's say your parents haven't filed taxes for 2019. Let's see. If they haven't filed taxes, but they earned some of these income, then they would be required to file taxes, and you won't be able to file your FAFSA application just yet until they complete the 2019 taxes. Okay, so parent financials, the IRS data retrieval tool. It is an incredible tool. Again, it reduces documents requested later. And then also, it's important to notice that if your parent doesn't have a social security number, they won't be able to use the data retrieval tool. Or if they filed just recently, then they won't be able to use it. Or if they are married, your parents are married but filed separately taxes, they won't be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, but no worry, we can input it manually. All right, so this is case 1. Parent filed taxes, they can use the DRT, the data retrieval tool. Case number 2, parent did not work, so then we would put 0 for wages. So additional income can be added later. So you can, if your parent is in case 2, they didn't work, we will put 0 for wages. And then later on, after you complete your FAFSA, most likely they will be able to provide any additional income sources at a later time. Okay, let's say you find yourself in case 3. Parent worked but did not have to file taxes, or the data retrieval tool does not work. Then we would input the income from working. All right, so continuing on with parent financials. So again, recommended that data retrieval tool if the parent has an FSA ID. So if the parent does have an FSA ID, we would click the IRS DRT and it will take you to this little page here. It takes about 5 minutes for you to do. So which parent are you? So you would want to select. If you have both parents in your FAFSA, you only need one FSA ID for parents. So let's say parent 1, that's who has the FSA ID. So you would log in, FSA ID and password. Then you'll see this handy dandy little page here, leaving your FAFSA. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes, you would want to select proceed to IRS. And this is if your parent has an FSA ID and if you're doing the data retrieval tool. If you're not able to do the data retrieval tool for your parent, just hang tight. Check your Instagram or something. Okay, here. If you're doing the data retrieval tool, you'll log in with your parents' FSA ID and it'll take you here. This is your US government system for authorized use only. You are authorized because that is, you have the proper username and password, so you'll hit OK. And then you will see this handy dandy form here. So you must use the tax information exactly as it appears in the tax return. So as you can see, based on the FSA ID, your parents' information will be pre-filled: first name, last name, their social, their date of birth, their filing status. What you as a student, and if your parent is with you, what you all would have to input is the street address, and it must match the 2019 tax forms. If you have the tax forms in front of you, you go ahead and copy exactly. Is it DR or drive? Is it ST or street? Whatever is on your 2019 tax forms, that is what you need to put in there. All right, if the DRT, the data retrieval tool, works, then you will see an option to transfer now. You would want to select the box and then hit transfer now, and that is a happy dance. It will save you about 20 to 30 minutes. And then you won't see the actual numbers transferred for security purposes. It'll just be a notice, hey, it was transferred from the IRS, and you can continue. Now, if a student and parents are not able to do the data retrieval tool, then you'll pull out, again, most people file the 1040, you'll pull out the 1040 tax forms, and then you can continue the questions. Okay, Schedule 1. This is some families, not all of them, file a Schedule 1. This is used for additional income or adjustments to the income. So if your family, if your parents did file a Schedule 1, it'll be in the packet of the tax forms. Also, Schedule 2, not everyone has to file a Schedule 2, but you would still need it as well if your parents file it. And then Schedule K1, again, not everyone files, but it looks just like this. If your parents filed a Schedule K1, it will be in the packet. Okay, so Section 5, Parent Financials. So this is if you did not use the data retrieval tool, you will be selecting, or you will be inputting manually the tax information using the tax forms. So you start inputting your parents' adjusted gross income from 2019 using the 1040. Most of the time is a 1040. And we're going to go through this example as if the parent is with a 1040. And then as you can see here, it lets you know exactly where to find that information. Found in IRS Form 1040, line 8B. So if you have the forms in front of you, then it's all a matter of plugging in the numbers. So here, as you can see, line 8B. And then here, the next question is, if it's two parents that you're putting in your FAFSA, they want to know who made how much money. So this is where you would use the parents' W-2 forms. And again, most of the time is found in the tax packets right there. It's probably stapled in one of the pages. But if you don't have the W-2 handy, then use the amount from 8B, from line 8B, and divide it into 2, or split the adjusted gross income between both parents. But both added numbers must be added to the adjusted gross income that you input in the question before. All right. If a parent has a Schedule 1, then you select yes. But again, not everyone has a Schedule 1. And if you don't find that Schedule 1 form, then chances are your parents didn't have to file a Schedule 1 form. And then here, enter the amount of your parents' income tax for 2019. And again, it tells you the total amount of IRS Form 1040, line 14 minus Schedule 2, line 2. Again, not everyone has to file a Schedule 2, but if you have one, then you will select that. And when in doubt, if you're like, what exactly is this asking? These handy dandy little question marks with the circle, they're navy blue, you can select that and it gives you more examples and more of an explanation of what that question means. Okay, so parent income from military, college grants, scholarships. This question here, this will be 0 for most of students and families. So that's if students, parents are in the military, if they're in college, retirement, and things like that. Again, most students, these questions will be zeros. And then most students' parents, these questions will be 0 too, but this is asking for any child support that your parents paid. And again, if they're in college, again, if federal work study, most students and families, this questions for parents is zeros. And again, so now it's asking if your parent receives child support. And then if they are part of clergy or military, retirement, VA, so veteran benefits, disability, or other monies. If your parent does have some of these amounts and you're not too sure how to locate these things, then reach out and we will help you out. And then assets. So based on responses, the family may skip questions. Again, remember from the beginning, if it allows you to skip questions, do it. But right here, as of today, does the total amount of your parents' current assets exceed $5,800? So usually assets have to do with, let's say a parent has, properties that they rent out other than the house that they live in. That can be considered an asset, or things like that. But if you have questions about what is considered an asset, you see here the word assets is linked. You click that and it gives you some examples of what may be considered assets. So you select yes or no, and then you can select next once you do that. And then here, again, if you are unfamiliar with exactly what would be considered an asset, monies, investment, businesses as well. But if not, again, if prompted, you can skip these questions. Okay, let's say skip. So section 6, student financials. So if the student's parents have total income of $27,000 or less, let's say your parents make $27,000 or less, then FAFSA will have this portion of the student's information skipped. So some of you, if your parents make $27,000 or less, you won't even see this page because the FAFSA automatically skips it. But if you do find yourself seeing the student information financials, then all you have to do is answer the same exact questions we answered for your parents for you as the student. Okay, student financials, again, very similar, identical to your parents' questions. And most students that I've worked with, they don't file taxes because they don't have to. They maybe not make enough to file taxes. So you answer accordingly. Now, if you do file taxes, you probably have your tax information in front of you, or you can also, as a student, link to the IRS and do that if you filed taxes for 2019. Again, if student filed taxes, use DRT. If student did not work, you input zeros for wages. And then if student worked but did not have to file taxes, then you put the income from what you work, and then there you have it. So in case number 1, okay, most students will find yourself not working in 2019, so you'll put 0, and then it goes to the child support questions. If you did file taxes, you can link to the IRS. It'll be the easiest way to select that and transfer your tax information to the FAFSA application. You do the same exact thing. DRT, you'll transfer now as a student now. And then there is just some questions that you may need to answer after transferring your IRS information. Okay, so case number 3. Let's say the data retrieval tool did not work, then all you have to do is same thing, input it manually. Use your W-2 forms for this question here. And then if you don't have a W-2 form handy, you as a student, you can use the adjusted gross income from the previous question in this question here. All right, sounds good. So again, exactly the same questions for the student that we just completed for the parent. So student income, it will be 0 for most students. Again, same thing. It talks about you being in the military, being in college. It asks about child support paid, college questions, federal work study. Most students will say 0 here. It asks if the student receives child support, not from a parent, but from like a baby mom or a baby dad. Most students will be 0. And then here, assets for the student, again, student information. If you have any money, investment, businesses, most students will be 0, but if not, then make sure to answer the questions accordingly. And then if you are prompted to skip, remember, skip. So the section 7 is submitting and signing. Congratulations, you are almost done with your FAFSA. So just verify the FAFSA. This is all summary of all the questions you just answered for your parents and yourself. And then you would want to select next. You would want to agree. I think I skipped, let's see. Yes, you want to select sign FAFSA. You'll select next. And you would want to sign electronically, and you do. And then if your parent does have an FSA ID, they can also provide parent signature electronically. And then once both are signed, just for parent, only one parent needs to have a signature, not both. So whoever has an FSA ID, that's who will sign. And then you'll hit agree, you'll hit next. And then for parent signature, you'll need an FSA ID. Don't mix it up between parent 1 and parent 2. Double check that that is the right parent based on their date of birth. And let's say your parent does not have an FSA ID, then they will sign with the signature page, and we'll go over that. But if your parent does have an FSA ID, then they will sign electronically. Okay, there you go. So once both parent and student has signed electronically, then you will want to hit submit. Don't forget this step. Some students have forgotten in the past. Don't forget to submit your FAFSA after you sign it. All right, so let's say your parent does not have an FSA ID. Then they will not be able to get to sign electronically. So what they would do is print a signature page. Okay, so then for parents who may be undocumented, again, they don't have an FSA ID, so you would have to print a signature page. So with that, what you would do is you'll select print signature page, and what you can do is you can save it as a PDF, and then you can actually visit your high school. So you can go visit Chavez and print a signature page there. And then also your high school, you can get with your counselor or reach out to me and then I'll direct you. Your high school can mail in the signature page for you. But again, you have to be proactive. You have to go to the high school if you don't have a printer at home and have them print out the page, have your parents sign. Once they sign, they'll be able to help you at your high school, at Chavez, mail it in for you. This is important. So you want to select sign without, parent signatures, and then boom, you will get this. And then we can clap, we can cheer. You'll see their congratulations. You have completed or you have submitted your FAFSA. So it's important for you to submit your FAFSA. The FAFSA is not completed if you have a signature page. It's not completed until Federal Student Aid receives that signature page mailed in. That's important. It does take, obviously, some time for them to receive it through the mail and process it. So you got to make sure to keep that into consideration. So it takes about 3 to 6 weeks for a FAFSA to process if a signature page is mailed in. It takes, I believe, 7 to 10 business days for it to process if you signed electronically. And then you'll see here, you'll see some of these numbers, and I'll go over exactly what each mean. The estimated expected family contribution, or for short, EFC. So that means the lower it is, so the closest it is to zero, the higher you may qualify for Pell Grant. And then your student aid report. So after the FAFSA, you can view or print your student aid report, and that's basically a summary of your application. Let's say you realize that you made a mistake and you need to make a correction. You can also make a correction right here using your FSA ID and password. If you bared through these slides in this video, and if you did your FAFSA with me together, then you are good. Congratulations. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out. My name is Mrs. Geiger. I'm your Southmount Community College advisor there at Chavez High School, and I look forward to sending you off to college. Thank you.